Good morning, everyone. I'm Ruth Rai, and my presentation is on topic responsibilities of a mentally ill person. Mental health nursing. In this entire presentation, we'll get to know about the responsibilities which the mentally ill person has to follow according to the law, as the law doesn't discriminate people according to their mental health. They're entitled to be treated equally without any discrimination with others, and they also have equal benefits of the law. But before beginning the topic, first of all, we must know who the mentally ill person are. So, mentally ill person are those who have disorder of thinking, mood, perception, orientation, or we can simply say unsound mind. They are unable to make judgment of the behavior. They do not have the capacity to recognize the reality or ability to meet the ordinary demands of life. Excuse me. Now we move to the topic legal responsibilities of a mentally ill person. In legal parlance, responsibility refers to liability and accountability for his or her acts of negligence. If such acts are contrary to the law of the land suitable, punishment is awarded. But a person with an unsound mind commits an act contrary to the law who are incapable of knowing its nature shall not be held for the offense. This means a person must be responsible or accountable for his or her own neglecting behavior. In this case, if a particular person acts against the law of the country, then he will be punished. But if that person is unsound or mentally ill, then he will not be responsible for the crime. But the person has to go through various tests to be remarked as unsound or mentally ill, so not to be held criminally responsible for their actions that broke the law. They have many different rules to follow. Number one, we have irresistible impulse test. So, what is irresistible impulse test? For the unsound people or person, irresistible impulse test is used in unison with a Manhattan rule. It refers to a situation where a person may know the difference between right and wrong but finds himself impulsively driven to commit the crime. This means this means irresistible impulse test is done along with the Manhattan rule. Later on, we'll get to know what Manhattan rule is. In this case, a person could not control his or her action even if they knew those actions to be wrong. So, in criminal law, irresistible impulse is a defense by excuse in which defendant argues not to be criminally responsible for the actions. And now we have Manhattan rule. Manhattan rules are also referred as the nature and quality rule and right from wrong test. Manhattan rule states that the individual at the time of the crime did not know the nature and the quality of the action, and if he did not know what he was doing, he did not comprehend it to be wrong. It is a test for criminal insanity because, in this case, the person at the time of crime becomes so mad that he or she didn't know the nature or quality of the actions he was doing, either because of his mind disease or insanity. Then the crime defendant will not be accused to be guilty of the crime or his wrongdoings. And we have product rule. So, what is product rule? Product rule is also known as Durham test. Product rule states that an accused person is not criminally responsible if his or her unlawful act is the product of mental disease or mental defect. That means product or Durham rule is followed if an accused person was already suffering from a mental disease or mental defect before committing the act of crime. Then the person may not be responsible or guilty for that crime. Next is ALI test or American Law Institute's test. ALI, American Law Institute, tests a person lacking adequate capacity to realize the criminality of his act or conformity of his conduct to the provisions of law, which is not responsible for performing such an act. That means ALI test is to defend a person who couldn't even realize his wrongdoings or abnormally has low capacity to accept his criminal act and conduct, which is committed against the law, then the person may not be responsible for the crime. So, all those were the legal responsibilities of a mentally ill person. So, after this, there are civil responsibilities of a mentally ill person. First, we have management of property. The court may ask for an application from any relative to direct an inquiry to ascertain whether a person is of unsound mind and incapable of managing his property. In such a case, a manager is appointed by a court of law to take care of his actions or take care of his property, which may include self disposal of the property to settle his debts or expenses. This means the court will inquire the relatives by asking an application to make sure if that property holder is unsound and unable to manage his property or not. Oh, sorry, it's able to manage his property or not. It will be inquired by the court. In this case, if a person is unsound, then someone will be appointed to be his manager to manage the property by the law. He will have the same power as the owner, but before doing anything, he must first take the permission from the court since the owner is incapable to make the judgment. After that, we have marriage. As per the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, marriage between any two individuals, one of whom was of unsound mind at the time of marriage, is considered null and void in the eyes of the law. Unsoundness of mind for a continuous period can be cited as a ground for obtaining divorce. The other party can file for a divorce when a lunacy continues for a period of more than 2 years after marriage. However, if divorce is filed after a 3 year period, divorce is granted with a precondition that the other party has to pay maintenance charges for the mentally ill person. That means during the marriage time between two individuals, if one has an unsound mind, then the marriage will be considered as null or void to the law, or we can say not legal. Even if they get married, the other party can find a divorce if the spouse act lunatic or like an idiot for more than 2 years after the marriage. However, if the divorce is filed after 3 years, then it is granted with a precondition, that is, the other party has to pay the maintenance charges for the mentally ill person. And we have testamentary capacity. As per the Indian Succession Act, testamentary capacity of the mental ability of a person is a precondition for making a valid will. The testator must be a major free from coercion, understanding, and plain soundness of mind. At times, doctors and nurses are called upon to witness the will of the ailing person. Under such circumstances, the doctor tests the testator for orientation, concentration, and memory. A person affected by delusion are not related to the disposal of the property. First, let me tell you the testator is a person who has given a legacy or will. The testator must be major. That means he has to be above 18, or we can say adult, to be given a will. If he does not have the capacity to persuade someone, if he is unable to understand people, and if his mind is unsound to make a will, then during such situation, doctors and nurses are called to witness the will of the ill person. At such times, the testator is tested for orientation, concentration, and memory. Lastly, we have right to vote. A person of unsound mind cannot contest for election or exercise the privilege of voting. That means a mentally ill person is not allowed to vote because his mind capacity is unable to make judgments. So, with this, we come to the end of my presentation. Thank you for your cooperation.